And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to this month's live stream. I really am happy that you could join me on the Saturday morning or afternoon, depending on where you're located. Definitely let me know down right now in the comments if you can hear me okay. I know that last time we started out, we had a little bit of an audio issue, but as long as everything works good, we can go ahead and get started. I see John R comes in hot with first, and welcome, John. Thanks for being here. Also, thanks for being a loyal channel member. Appreciate you and everything you do for our community, and definitely keep up the great work with all of your videos. Kirby G's in the house saying second. Welcome, Kirby G. And my boy Dugras Reports says third. Awesome. Okay. So in terms of excuse me, in terms of Dugras, his live stream earlier this morning, there was a comment about maybe doing a, I would say like a 3-person live stream between Dugras, myself, and Luke, and I think that's a great idea. So I think Dugras, you and I will have to work on that with Luke to get that set up because we are men of the people, and so if they want that, we will certainly do that and figure out a great show to make that happen. All right, so Kevin Wynn says sounds good. John R says sound and video are 5 of 5. Kirby G sounds great. My buddy Juan Memix in the house. Excuse me here. I'm going to go ahead and just do a bit of a cough. Sorry about that. Juan Memix, good to see you, buddy. Great to see you here. Juan Garcia is here, another channel member. Thank you so much for being here, and good afternoon. For me, it's morning. It's actually just about 10 o'clock in the morning, which is awesome. My buddy Trip Pierce is here. Excuse me. What's up, Stan? And then John R says, thank you, Stan. I appreciate the kind words. Doing my best. No, John, you have really grown since you first started YouTube. And I think that's for every YouTuber or every YouTube content creator, is that the more videos you do, the better you become in it. And now you're doing live streams. So I see you becoming way more comfortable with the camera. And, it's really great to see your progression and see how things are going for you. So keep it up, man. Jim Kwok is here. Good to see you, Jim. I really appreciated and liked your live stream that you were on the other day, and it was great to meet you at the New Orleans meetup. And hopefully we can meet up again at sometime soon. And all your advice and wisdom is always appreciated because obviously you have a lot more life experience than I do, and a lot of us do. So thank you so much for being here. Let's see here. DGAS MD says, are you still getting the elevated multipliers in addition to US Bank? How do you split the expenses among both systems? And we're going to go into that because that is actually my setup now, is actually 2 US Bank cards and 2 Bank of America cards. I do have the elevated multipliers on both, and so that makes things very easy for me. Of course, that's very hard to do for a lot of people, just because the asset requirement is so high for that. But if you're in that category where you can make that happen, it's a really powerful setup, and we'll kind of go into that in a little bit. Another perspective says, I have it, and definitely worth it if you play quarterly taxes. Absolutely. So he's talking about the US Bank Smartly card. That card has been just kind of a game changer, in my opinion. We're going to go into a deep dive into US Bank and the brokerage and the asset requirements and all that stuff later on. But if you can make the 4% work and you just have it in the background, it is a great card to have a really high cashback percentage for no annual fee, which is pretty cool. M2K says, morning. John R saying, thanks, man, and saying hi to Jim. DSMD says, does US Bank allow the use of the card with that 4% cashback for taxes? I think we're all waiting to see if that will happen. I think there should be no problem with it because typically there is, nothing that says that you can't do that, but it's all well and good until it's not good at all. So we have to see when we get more data points of people paying their taxes, and I'll be doing some of that myself as well. But we'll see if it actually works out to 4% or not. But it should. Josh Ing is here. Yo, what's up? And then good to see you, Josh. Good to have you here. Scooter says, hello, Stan from Atlanta. Welcome, Scooter. Thanks for being here. Great to see you from the East Coast. And I've never been to Atlanta before, but hopefully one day I will be able to go and see that city, because I hear it's pretty amazing and their airport is very big. And so at some point, I'm sure I'll go through there, especially if I have to go to places like Europe or something like that. Robert Padilla says, hey all, I enjoy this channel even though I am rebuilding, and this channel is geared more towards great credit. I'll be there somewhat soon. That's great. I think it's really nice, to start somewhere And seeing what you can eventually get to is also great because it gives you sort of a goal to work towards, and also something to look forward to. Um, not everyone's going to start at the level of good credit, but as long as you make those incremental changes where you pay your bill off on time and in full, build up your credit score using all the good credit knowledge on this channel as well as other YouTube channels, eventually get to the point where you're able to really maximize those rewards for your own setup, and that's kind of the goal of this channel as well. Kevin Wynn says, you going to downgrade the B of A Premium Rewards Elite to customized cash? Yes, that is actually my plan to do so. I don't have a need for the Premium Rewards Elite credit card anymore just because I have a catch-all credit card now. The only thing the Premium Rewards Elite credit card is giving me is the no foreign transaction fees on a catch-all credit card. So that's the one thing I am missing on the US Bank Smartly, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I don't really travel a lot internationally, so it's not as a big of a deal for me. But I have to have some backup because I will travel internationally at some point. So I have to figure out between now and then what's the best card to use. I've had some people reach out to me to give me some examples or some kind of suggestions. Some just say use the US Bank Altitude Reserve, which I think is great. It's 1x catch-all, but for most things like mobile wallet or travel, it does have that 3x category, so that's fine. But I definitely want to see if I can get a better catch-all card to use. Has to be Visa, MasterCard, no American Express. So we'll see what happens. There may be another card that comes out in the future that may fit that category, but that's where I'm at this point. Dalton is here. Greetings, Stan. Dalton, we got your question. Thank you again so much for leaving questions every month. You always have great questions to go through, and we're going to definitely get to that one soon. Jordan Rules from Credit is here. What's up, Stan? I saw that you're going to be on a live stream later on today. So if you haven't, if you have some time after my live stream, I think it's at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Go ahead and check out that one from Joe. I think it's Joe Barretto's channel. I can't remember. But Jordan Rules of Credit is a new credit card content creator. We love having new creators out here and really spreading their knowledge and their experience. And everyone's experience is going to be different, which is why it's so cool to have this community, because it's helpful to see different perspectives on the same cards. Because we all know what the cards are. We all know the multipliers, we know all the benefits. But how do you integrate that and use them in a certain situation? And the more of us there are, the better, because then we can learn from the whole community at large. And so, Jordan, welcome, and keep up the great work on your videos. David Williams here. He says, I use the Discover 1% debit card for tax this quarter. Hope it works. I hope I hope you didn't do that, but you do you, man. I think it's a sarcastic comment, but I don't think any of us are going to be using a 1% card for taxes, especially if there's a 1.8 or 2.2 or whatever percent transaction fee. That would be dumb. Another perspective says, I paid estimated taxes late December. The points show, but are pending until my statement cycle closes. Great, man. So if you get a chance to figure out if that happens, let us know. I don't pay quarterly taxes, so I don't know this until March. So if you figure that out, leave a comment or let us know, and we'd all love to hear about your experience about that. Filmo is here. It's now not just Filmo, it's Filmo's world. And so that's definitely a different thing. Good morning, Stan, and everyone here today. Good morning to you as well. Great to see you. And, always happy to see you and having your expert wisdom with your amazing welcome offer setup. Monroe Doctrine says, thinking of applying for the Bonvoy Boundless today and then change it in a year to the Ritz. I already got the Bonvoy Brilliant. Yeah. That's great. As long as you get the Brilliant before the Ritz, that's fine. As long as you also have the Brilliant for more than 24 months, that's fine too, because if you want to get the Boundless welcome offer, you got to wait at least 24 months because the Brilliant is an American Express card. If you don't care about the welcome offer for the Boundless, which I think is a mistake, but some people I can see, if they really want to get it fast, I can see why, then you can apply before 24 months. But really, get the Brilliant. If you have it already, make sure it's 24 months. Apply for the Boundless, wait a year, Ritz-Carlton. You're going to be good. Only thing left over is that business card. You'll be locked out of the business card for 24 months, at least the welcome offer for that, if you get the Boundless card at this point. Gerardo is here. He says, what credit card would you recommend to a person who spends hundreds to thousands of dollars on car parts or tools to maximize my rewards? So let's see. If you have car parts or tools, I don't believe there is a category specifically for that. But because of the way the US bank cards are now, you have the altitude reserve, which if you have it, that's what I would use if you can use Apple Pay. If you can't use that, then the Smartly would be another thing. My guess is that if you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on car parts or tools, my hope is that you have enough money to back that up and you have enough money to put into a brokerage or something with 100K assets in the US bank to get that 4%, because that would be the best way to return on your spend. Now, there's going to be a difference in opinion here because some people would say, well, you could use Smartly, make it simple and get that 4%, or you could get the Amex Platinum Business or the Amex Business Gold and just like churn out those welcome offers to make sure that those get you the best return on your spend. And so welcome offers are always going to be the best way to do it. So you could just keep getting welcome offers to get that point balance to be much higher. But if not, then if you want one single card, the Smartly card would be the one that I would recommend. And we're going to go through some of those examples in a little bit. Robert Padilla says, almost there, only one more negative account to pay for. Delete. And the Amex Optima has really helped me get back in the Amex family, and Navy Federal has been very good to me. Okay. I'm not sure the Amex Optima, but maybe it's a different card from a different country. But as long as you get that negative account to pay off and get that out of your report, that's great. And then you'll have the ability to kind of continue to build up that credit and make it better for you. Just take it one step at a time. One goal. I always think to myself to what I would do in these debt situations. Fortunately, I don't have any major debt at this point. But if I did, would I go the snowball method or would I go the avalanche method? Avalanche being more mathematically favorable, but the snowball method I think is a little bit easier. So I actually would go with the snowball method just because you get those little incremental wins, and then you just psychologically you feel more empowered to do more. And so I would actually do the snowball method, which means that you tackle your smallest debt first and work up, because that means you will get more wins faster, as opposed to avalanche where you take the biggest debt first or the highest APR percentage first, and then you kind of build down. That may take some time, and it may just seem like a mountain you can't climb. And so that would be kind of my recommendation for that. But I'm glad to hear that you're on your way. Gotham 619 says, the card is good if I am only interested in using as a 2% cashback card. I mean, it is, but there's no reason why you couldn't get something like the Fidelity 2% cashback card and have no foreign transaction fees instead. So I think that this card is mainly for those who want to get that 2.5, 3, 4% cash back. Because if you look around the other cards in the portfolios that the other companies have, there are other 2% cards that work better because they have that no foreign transaction fees ability. Let's not forget about our favorite credit union card too, the Alliant Visa Signature card, which gets 2.5%, cash back if you have, $1,000 on a checking account with them, and it also gets no foreign transaction fees as well as no annual fees. So that's also a solid one to look at too if you're looking for that with not really that much work. I see Josh Ing already has gone to the Fidelity card. He asks, Fidelity is a catch-all? 2%, no FTFs, and $100 TSA global entry credit for no annual fee. I actually didn't know it had that benefit of $100 TSA pre-check global entry. That's pretty cool. If that's the case, then that's definitely the best card. And I'm a big fan of Fidelity myself, as you all probably know. And so if you want 2%, I think that would be a great card because those are great benefits. Plus $100 for TSA pre-check. That's great. I would totally do that. Jordan coming back here. Appreciate you, Stan, just taking what I'm learning from people like you. Amazing. Yeah, I think, if you ever have any questions about YouTube or those sorts of things, we're always open for, questions. So, we've been there, just where you've been too. Just as a reminder, I started in early 2022. It took me 8 months to get monetized. And then, back then it was, if you look at my past portfolio, I have my older videos and at the time I thought they were great, but they're actually pretty terrible. And so if you look at them, you'll see yourself start to grow and grow and grow. And, it's just one of those things that you just have to put in more reps. And I know you're going to do great. Just keep up the good work and be consistent. You're already doing great by interfacing with a lot of us, and we're always here to help you out. And I hope that we can continue to make this community very open and engaging, and definitely a great place for us to just talk about our favorite topic, which is credit cards. All right. Filmo comes out with a $2 super chat. Hit that like button, folks. I agree. If you're here, hit the like button. I really appreciate it. Definitely hit it if you're getting value. I appreciate that super chat, Filmo. Thank you so much for that. I apologize that I wasn't able to get to it earlier. As well as John R., who also hit us with a super chat. Click the like and the welcome sub button if you haven't yet. Thank you so much for that super chat as well. Again, I love all the engagement, all the knowledge that we share together. It's going to be a great live stream today because we have some really nice questions. I had a little bit less questions than before, but that's good because that means I can spend more time on those individual questions to really deep dive on those. So that's going to be awesome. All right, so let me see where if I can figure out where I left off. David Williams says, "Oh, only $2.15 flat for debit cards." Oh, okay. So I thought that was a credit card. I was mistaken. Sorry, but that's good. Good to know. If there's a Discover debit card, then you can definitely do that too. Manuel Jimenez says, "Morning, everyone." Good morning, Emmanuel. Good to see you here. Randall Wayne says, "What's up, Stan? Do you know Amazon Amex Blue Cash every day gets 3% on Amazon?" I believe it should. Online purchases and Amazon are pretty much synonymous, and so that should work out okay. The question is, did you want to do that versus using that Chase Amazon Prime card? Understandably, there is a cost to the Prime membership, so there's that. But I would imagine most of us here have Prime for using Amazon anyways. So I would say yes. I believe I've tried that before with my own Blue Cash every day, and it still worked out to be 5% or 3% cash back. So the answer to your question is yes. Munro Doctrine says, "I'm military, so I don't pay the annual fees, so I'm already winning. Welcome offers aren't that big of a deal for me." Okay, great. So as long as you don't have annual fee issues, then you can just start getting those really, really big annual fee cards that you don't have to pay for. And then those typically have those higher welcome offer requirements. And if you have that issue or you have those cards, then that's great. But I would try to get a US Bank Smartly card or some equivalent backup card because unless you're Filmo, who's really good at this and can do welcome offers and just do them over and over and over again, there's going to be a period of time where we're probably not going to have a welcome offer to work on, especially if you're spending that much money very quickly. And so if that's the case, then I would have like the Smartly or some other high percentage card like the Robin Gold card or the Alliant Visa Signature card that could be helpful for your spending situation. All right. Josh Ing says, "I can see the Discover 1% debit being worth it in a very niche cases. The flat fee is nice if you make enough to offset it. There is a $30 cap, though." That's fair. So I don't know much about the Discover debit card. I should probably look into that. One debit card that I've been exploring actually is the PayPal Debit MasterCard. I'm sure you all have heard of this, from Reddit or from other people. Actually, the first one that told me about this was Mostly Free Travel. She messaged me on Instagram and told me about it. I was like, oh, interesting. So this PayPal debit card gets you 5% cash back on on a choice category up to $1,000 in spend per month. And those categories are pretty stable. I think it's clothing, restaurants, groceries, and health and beauty, if I'm maybe forgetting one or two of them. But those are pretty good. Categories to have a 5% multiplier in. The issue is you have to use a PayPal debit card, debit account for that. So you have to link it to your debit card account. You have to transfer money from your bank to the debit card account. So I think it's one of those things where we're trying to get people to sign up for those debit card accounts. But I just signed up for one. It was pretty easy. I'm putting money in now, and it's taken a while, so I haven't used the card quite yet. But I'm going to try to use it for a little bit and just kind of report back on my findings. But that's one debit card that's interesting. And if those of you haven't heard about it, just check it out. I don't know if it's good or bad quite yet, other than you have to use a PayPal debit account. But I think it's a very interesting card. And so now we can add the Discover debit card to that list of interesting cards to use for payments. Kevin Wynn says, "On the B of A Premium Rewards Elite, does Party Pass still have restaurants left? I mean, high annual fees left. What is limit to bring people to lounge?" Okay, so let's go that piece by piece. So it does have restaurants as far as I can remember. It does have a high annual fee of $550. So that's that. But you can offset that with a $300 travel credit, like airline dental credit, and a $150 lifestyle credit, which is like, gym memberships, Uber Eats, things like that. And then what is the limit to bring people into the lounge? I don't believe there is a specified limit. I would say probably two. The thing with the Bank of America card, which is very similar to the Capital One Venture X, is that you can actually get an authorized user for free. And then each authorized user has their own card with their own priority pass with their own free guests. And the nice thing about Bank of America is that you don't even need to have an authorized user to give people priority passes. Actually, if you go on their website and you sign up for the first priority pass, you'll see in like small print below that you can sign up to 4 priority passes total. And that does not require an authorized user at all. And so for guests, I believe there's never been a time where I've seen the actual number stated, but typically it's 2. And then that would be kind of the one I would use, although it could be unlimited too. So I'm not exactly quite sure because it's not clear on their promotional materials. Robert Padilla says, Amex Optima is a recovery product. I defaulted on a green card and paid the old balance. They gave me a card in return. It's no frills. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that was an option, but that's pretty cool to hear. Matt Clausen's in the house. Matt Clausen, we'll talk about your video with Spaithco in a moment, so that's going to be really cool. Great interview, by the way. Haven't checked out Matt Clausen's channel. Does a really good job with predictions and wants and likes and dislikes. So definitely check out his channel if you have not already, but you probably already know him if you're already here in this particular live stream. Okay. Let's see here. So Mike L says Fidelity's TSA Global Entry benefit is new. Think they sent an email out a few months ago. All right. Thanks, Mike. That's great to know. That's probably why I didn't know about it. But now, as you guys are educating me on it, this is a really cool card to have, which is that Fidelity 2% rewards card, especially for no annual fee and no foreign transaction fees. As a matter of fact, I may even get that card eventually as my international card. Who knows? That's one thing to think about. All right. Missed the Beast Hydra? Okay. Hope I got that right. If I got the CFU on October 17th of last year, and the in cash on December 20th of last year, and plan on getting the preferred end of March, I'm guessing you're thinking it could be the Sapphire preferred or the Ink preferred. I would imagine it's the Ink preferred. I want to get Ink Unlimited in November for sure. Is it unsafe to get the Freedom Flex in September and August? So you're basically getting a lot of chase cards pretty quickly. I would just watch your chase 524 status. And I think the interval you're doing this at is fine. I think 2 to 3 months for every card is a good interval. And you only have 1 Ink card. So if you're going for an Ink preferred, that's fine. If you want to get Ink Unlimited later on this year, that's fine. It's only going to be 3 cards. It's 1 of every card. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. I know there's been a whole crackdown on Ink cards and like having multiple of them. But I think in your situation, if you're doing this 1 every couple months and then you're getting 1 of each type of card, that's like not a big deal. I don't think it'd be unsafe to get a Freedom Flex in between September and August. I would only say that if you do kind of the counting, CFU is 1, Ink Cash is 2, preferred March is 3. You have to make sure that you're under chase 524. So you have you only have 1 other card, no, 2 other cards that you could have within 24 months of that last application to see if you can get the CFF. And then if you do that, with Ink Unlimited, you're starting to build up on that 524 set. So I think that math is wrong. So maybe just 1 extra card from another issuer in the past 24 months, because that's going to put you at 4. If you get the CFF in September, August, then you have to be at 424 to get the Ink Unlimited in November. So just look at your portfolio and figure out if that's the thing or not that you have. Monroe Doctrine says, I hope Amex brings back everyday preferred and does 2x membership points on all purchases. Yeah, I really hope they do too. It's kind of annoying that they have only a business card for 2x MR points back. They really do need a 2x card that is standard. So hopefully they bring that back in some way, shape, or form, because right now their personal lineup is kind of not that great in terms of the no annual fee cards. They're clearly targeting a certain demographic, which is the higher cards, the higher annual fee cards. But I agree. Stephen Wu is here. Good morning, Stan. I have a quick question. Are you still planning to keep the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve now that you have the U.S. Bank Smartly card? And yes, in my What's My Wallet video, which was my last video last Monday, I talked about how, even though the Smartly card does give you a 4% cashback rate, and the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve gets you an effective 4.5% equivalent cashback rate for an equivalent $75 effective annual fee, the Smartly card is probably going to get nerfed at some point. Hopefully not soon, but it will definitely do that at some point. And so you don't want to be left holding the bag if you only have a Smartly card and have nothing to fall back on. So especially because you can't even get the Altitude Reserve anymore, I would just keep it until basically infinity as a backup plan for the Smartly card. That's my stance on it. I think $75. I think I did the math on this, and I think it was to get um, an extra 0.5% over the course of a year for $75 effective annual fee. I think it was $15,000 on the card over the year to make it like even worth it. And I do spend that and then a lot more on the US Bank Ultra Reserve. So that would work it for me. But I can see if you wanted to simplify things, you want to just do the 4% smartly, that would be fine. But you're really just leaving yourself exposed, because if the 4% gets nerfed in some way, then you don't have it anymore, then that's going to be a problem. Okay, Claudia C says, do you think it's better to book a hotel through the hotel portal like Marriott using the highest giving card, non-portal card, or portal? I mean, I generally book hotels through the official website. I like that because I can maneuver the dates, like in terms of cancellations or modifications myself with the actual website itself, the actual official, website. I think with portals, it may or may not be as easy to do that, just based off of, experience I've had in the past. I know that a lot of them have been better at this point, and you do get a higher multiplier. For example, Capital One or Chase have their own portals with higher multipliers, and that's a thing. So if you want to really supercharge your points that are flexible points, like the Capital One miles and the Chase UR points, that's totally fine. But if not, then I would just stick with the official website and I would call it a day. That's my personal thing. And I still do that to this day, is book hotels only with the official website. Vernon Gomez is here. I'm here. I'm under the weather from travel this week. I'm but glad to see you here on the Smartly train. Thank you, Vernon. I'm sorry to hear you're feeling sick, but hopefully you will feel better soon. And yes, I am on the Smartly train. Kevin Wood saying PayPal debit card is like a prepaid debit card. Yeah, that's for sure. If B of A ups the ante, I'll switch. This is Vernon, by the way. The PR Elite does still have dining at Priority Pass. Don't forget that extra travel perk when you book travel through the portal, which it was nice as Venture X's, though. Yeah, I mean, you have to book the airline, like only airfare through the portal to get the extra 20% back, which it's equivalent to a 1.25 cent per point boost when you book airfare through the Bank of America portal. But again, you have to book it through the portal. And so, I mean, I personally have had issues with portals, and so I try not to do that, which is why for me, that's not what I want to do. But you can certainly boost up those earnings a little bit if you use the points you get from the PR Elite to book through the travel portal, like Vernon was saying. Ben Rain 09 says, hey, Stan, do you think US Bank will nerf the Ultra Reserve or bring it back anytime soon? I don't think they're going to nerf it. I don't think they'll bring it back anytime soon. And I don't know this, off the top of my head. And I don't have any like insider knowledge or anything, but that's my thought. I think it's just going to be grandfathered and just we're done. Like, that's it. Like, it's just going to exist the way it's going to exist. And we'll just have to hold our breath. They may bring a US Bank alternative card, a US Bank Ultra Reserve alternative card that's like the Altitude Reserve. And if they do that, in that case, they may change up the original Ultra Reserve to what the new card is. And so if I see that, I do see that potentially happening. But at this point, there's been no news of that. And so I think we're just going to have to sit it out and wait to see. JP Knowledge in the house. My boy JP Knowledge is here. Good to see you, man. The Smartly card is fire. It is currently unmatched. Thanks so much for that. I know you're a big fan of that. And we got your question as well from the community post. So we will definitely go over that as well. JP Knowledge also has released a course with all of his knowledge. I believe it is Points Travel 101 or something. I think that's what it is. Just correct me if I'm wrong, JP. But I'm going through his course. Pretty good stuff. Good knowledge that he's really dropping down on that course. So definitely check it out if you want to see what he does for his flight redemptions. And I think it's a really cool thing and a cool product that he has. Josh Ing says, I wish I could get into the Smartly or Premium Reward system, but the check system, EWS, and the horror stories got me hesitant in getting into the US Bank of America ecosystem. I mean, I've never had a problem opening a checking account. I've never had a problem with either bank doing checking account things. I don't do very special things. I do very normal things like ACH transfers and paying off your bills and getting direct deposits, things like that. And that's been fine. And so I would just try it and see if you like it. Obviously, you don't want to use a checking account to get into the preferred reward system or into the Smartly reward system with the US Bank, you want to use a brokerage for that. But I think the first step is to have a checking account with them. So just try it, see if you like it. You don't know until you try. If they're denying you for checks, maybe it's because you're doing bank account bonus hunting or something like that. But I've never had a problem with it. Kyle McConville says, "Hi Stan, just booked a venue for a 2026 wedding. Congratulations, that's big news. It's great that you're actually doing this well in advance, so that's awesome. Like we didn't for our wedding, we didn't do that. We kind of we rushed pretty quick. It was about 6 months, I think, that we booked our venue to the day of the wedding. You're putting down 25% in February. Any expectations of February being better for welcome offers? I'm 424, have the Amex Gold, Platinum CSP, 48 plus months so far, Venture X, and then March, Marriott Bonvoy Boundless. I don't know if it's going to be better for welcome offers or not. They're kind of random, so I would just take them as they come. I would just wait and see. I would try to get a card beforehand as a plan. So if you are into business cards, those tend to be very good for that. But otherwise, you got to get set up, and I would just wait for the welcome offer to get there. I'm gonna cough for 1 second. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay. So yeah, I don't have any cards in mind. But again, if you want cards with higher min spend requirements, Amex is good for that. And also business cards, like I said before. Bill Wright comes in and says, "Is there a cash value for a Marriott stay that has an M Lounge? What should I value it as?" I don't know if I can value it in cash. I would say that most M lounges do come with free breakfast. And so if you get that free breakfast every morning, that is like, I would say a $25 to $50 value, depending on if it's you plus a guest. Also, if you have more than one person, they all can come in with you as long as the room is, you have that M lounge benefit on your platinum elite status. So if you have more people, then that obviously is going to get much greater and greater. But I don't know if I have a specific number. I would just say $25 to $50, depending on how many people you bring in. Raghav Suresh is here. Stan, just saw your roadmap video. Got the Boundless with 3 free nights, as that fits more with my organic spend than the 5 free nights offer. Thanks for all you do. Yeah, great. If that works for you, that's totally fine. You on the Boundless now, so now you're kind of on that Marriott train. If you want to do the Marriott strategy, now that clock has started, which is great. And so in a year's time, you can figure out if you like Marriott or you don't like it. And if not, there's always that Marriott Bonvoy Bold card to downgrade to. But if you do like it, then you can have at least 1 year under your belt. So that's awesome. I'm glad you liked that roadmap video, and I'm happy that you are liking the content. Okay. Noah Claxon says, "How long do you suggest waiting for applying for a new card if going for a mortgage?" I'm in this situation right now. I personally would wait at least 6 months in terms of applying for a mortgage, I would just do the card application and wait 6 months after that. In terms of when if you are in the process of closing on a house, you can't really do much during that period. But once you my understanding is once you close and everything is like finalized, you can then apply for a new card, because you don't want to have fluctuations in your credit report or credit score as you are getting a mortgage, because it may affect your interest rate if it goes down to another like tier that's lower than what you originally had. I'm also not as familiar with this quite yet because I haven't gone through the mortgage applying process. I know that they use different FICO scores too, so it's not the ones that we may necessarily are familiar with, and so I don't have that knowledge to figure out like what you should do if you're currently applying for a mortgage or within the process of closing on a house. So my strategy for that would be just stop applying and then wait 6 months and then just don't do anything until you get a house. That's kind of it. But if anyone has like recommendations and has gone through that process and knows more about this, definitely leave a comment down below so Noah can get an answer for his question. Claudia C says, "Can I use my hotel status when booking through the Capital One Chase portal?" I am not entirely sure. My guess is yes, but I'm not sure. So if someone knows this, let me know, or let Claudia C know, because I have never booked through either the Chase portal or the Capital One portal to know if that's the case or not. Yuri is here. Good to see you, Yuri. Can I transfer points from my Inc. Preferred to my players to Freedom Flex FF accounts I think it's Freedom Flex accounts. You can transfer points between you and your player two from one Chase account to another. Once they have the UR points in their account, they can do whatever they want with them. I'm not as familiar with the Aeroplan system, so if you can use UR points for Aeroplan, I think that's fine. But you can only transfer UR points to like UR points between accounts. You can't like transfer UR points to like someone else's Aeroplan account. The name has to match. Tito says, are there still days points about cards able to upgrade to the Altitude Reserve card? I'm not sure what that means, but I don't believe that there are any cards you can upgrade to the Altitude Reserve. I believe that card is done. So you either have it now or you don't have it now, and that's kind of the way it is. Hopefully people were able to get the card before it was closed out in back in November, and that's why I made that a post to make sure people could apply for it if they wanted it. But unfortunately, right now, I don't think there's a way in to get to an Altitude Reserve. Player 2 has employees cards on Ink Preferred. Okay, I'm not entirely sure about the question, but maybe you can rephrase that and I can maybe answer that better for you. JP Knowledge says, yes, thanks. Points Travel 101. Thanks so much for staying for the shout out. Of course. So, yeah, so that's the website, pointstravel101.com. Kevin Wynn says, you must agree that B of A's best backup just in case if US Bank Smartly card got nerfed. I agree. I mean, I'm still keeping that around. So I can always have, I can either apply for a new Premium Rewards Elite card or Premium Rewards card or product change one of the cards I have to another Premium Rewards card if Smartly gets nerfed. So I think those two those two banks, Bank of America and US Bank, are those that have those relationship statuses so far. But right now, I'm just going to worry about the cards, the banks themselves, and not worry about what may happen. But yes, if you want to have a good setup that's pretty stable, Bank of America is much better for that than US Bank, which is relatively new and can nerf their cards anytime. Guna Drive is in the house. Sup, Stan? How's it going, Guna Drive? Good to see you. Okay. And so Yuri G says, can I transfer your points from my Ink Preferred to my Player 2 Aeroplan, given she has an employee card on my Ink Preferred? I do not believe you can do that. You have to. She has to have her own. She has to have her own Chase card to transfer the Euro points to. You can't transfer your points to your wife's employee card, which is attached to your own account. I know that for sure. As for Aeroplan, if there's some special Aeroplan situation with your points, that's fine, but you can't transfer your points to Aeroplan directly. Unless you're talking about transferring her points like through transfer partners, which is still going to be a no because you have to transfer it to your own account, not her account. At least that's what I believe. If I'm wrong, just let me know, but I'm pretty sure you have to do it in that particular way. Do you think Amex will increase the fee on the Platinum card this year? I do, actually. I think that they will. I don't think it may become in effect this year, but it'll probably be sometime late this year or next year. We have some members here talking. So Chad Petticoff says, I believe you can call Chase. So there you go. I think that is always going to be the correct answer, is to call Chase and ask. So I totally agree with that. Where are we here? Ed Zhao says, at 124 right now and looking to get back into grinding out credit card bonuses, what would you say is max application velocity between Chase, Cap One, and Citi? I don't know if there's a max, what I would say, but I'd say if you're applying for cards every 2 to 3 months, that would be the most conservative way to go. And I say most conservative in the sense that for us, most conservative. Most people don't even bother applying for cards for years. But for us, I think if you do every 2 to 3 months in a certain issuer, that's not going to trip any like problems. So that's what I'd recommend. John R says, when I bought my house, the mortgage company banned me from applying for opening cards until the closing was completed. And that's interesting. They banned you from it because like you can, but I think it's probably wise advice to not apply for any cards when you're trying to close a house. So there's that. Matt Clausen has some information about the portals. Hotel status and compatible in portal, probably not. Chase only through the edit and on hotels that allow system eligibility. Thank you, Matt. That is very helpful. I didn't know that, but that would be a great answer to that question about whether or not Capital One or Chase portals allow you to have status as well when you book, Marriott status or, Hilton status, for example. Again, Chad's in the house. Howdy. Good to see you, Chad. Thanks for answering that question for Yuri. All right. Jagu says, Josh, what's been the card you were most excited for that since you've been the most underwhelmed or disappointed in since receiving? Alternatively, one you've been surprised with how much you've enjoyed using it. Um, I would say, and this is gonna ruffle a lot of feathers. I would say the built card was the one that I was the most excited for, but now I'm the most underwhelmed and disappointed. And it wasn't because, like, at the time it was a great card. That is actually true. But since they have started to nerf it more and more and more with different things, and they also added some things too. Um, but for me in particular, it's less and less effective for me as I, even earning these points on rent. So back when I got the card, there were two benefits that I thought that were really great. It was a transfer partner to American Airlines, and the other one was you can get on rent day up to 10,000 bonus points because everything was doubled. So 6x on restaurants, 4x on travel, 2x on everything else. And those points could go to your build account too. And I really like that because that was a great way to earn a lot of points very quickly, especially with that restaurant spending. But mostly, you could put things like, car insurance on there, get some built points on there. That'd be great. They took that away. So now there's almost no reason for me to use the card at all, except for those 4 transactions to get the rent payments. So now I'm very underwhelmed by the card, and that's kind of where I'm at with that. How much enjoyed? So there have been people before in a couple years ago that told me about the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve, and I thought about it and I thought it'd be good, but I didn't really, understand it as well as I did. I believe it was RemGB and also Dugras had it as well. And they were really preaching about how US Bank Altitude Reserve was so great. And so when I got it, I was like, I'm going to try it out as my main card. And it's great. Like, it's easy. Like, it's never been a problem. The Apple Pay works seamlessly. I get all my points. There was that period of time where some people wouldn't get their 3x points, but I never had that problem. So it's just the easiest card. I can give it to like my wife. It's super easy. She can use Apple Pay. We get great percent back, cash back for very little work. And it just works really well in my life. And so that has been the one I've been the most it's been the most enjoyable card I have. And it's funny because I don't even have the physical card. It's just in my like Apple Watch. And so I just use it. It's a great card. And I'm very sad that it's gone, but maybe they'll come back, in the future with a card that's better, or maybe not. We'll have to see. But that's definitely answer those 2 questions. Okay. Tito says, back a family of 5 from Seattle to London Heathrow for 53,000 Virgin Atlantic points this summer. That's awesome. What a great redemption. Great work, Tito. For Kyle, last February, United had 100K miles on United Business Card as an offer. Perfect. That was just for his knowledge about welcome offers that may be coming up. DGasMD1 says, why do you think that US Bank refuses to pool all points into one account like Chase or Amex? It seems that it would make their cards more powerful, so it begs the question. I think we're all asking the same question about that. We have no idea why that's the case or not. They should. They honestly should. But, it is what it is. Right now, they don't even have an altitude reserve, so it doesn't even matter anymore. But, if they were to come out with a luxury travel credit card in the future, I think it would behoove them to do that. And I think, you're absolutely right. Guna Driver says he has a B of A set up in the works in November before. Discontinued. I was approved for US Bar. Thank you, Stan, for the heads up. Just earned Smartly bonus for checking 450. Oh, awesome. That's great. Not sure about applying for a Smartly credit card at 6 for 6. Yeah, it's up to you. I mean, if you have a catch-up credit card that works, totally fine. But I would say that if you want to start building up that relationship with the US Bank by getting a brokerage and putting money in, which we'll go over in a moment, that would be what I would do if you're thinking about doing this, using that Smartly Rewards program for that 4% cash back. Okay. Matt Clausen disagrees. Bill's gonna have a great year. I don't know if he agrees or disagrees, but I think that for Bill, that card is kind of being sunsetted in my life. But the only thing that's keeping it around is that rent situation. Janelle Santiago says, I have the Venture X and US Bank Altitude Reserve. Awesome. That's a great setup. Should I cancel the gold since I get 3x on US Bar on mobile wallet and not worth it to pay $325 since I live in Puerto Rico and can't use all the gold credits? Yes, I believe you should cancel the gold card if you can't use the credits. There's no reason to keep a card for $325 and get, even the multipliers are fine, but if you can't use the credits, it's like, why do you even bother having that card unless you really want those hour points? But because you have such great cards already, the Venture X and US Bar, that's going to be a much better setup for you for sure. Yuri's replying to him, I canceled Amex Gold some time ago. There are too many coupons to manage, and I totally agree, Yuri. That's been my whole mantra about the Amex Gold card, which it's still a great card. Don't think I don't like it. It's just that for me, it's just not worth it. He replaced it with US Bar, then he got the Saber one. That's great. Awesome. My boy, Nubia Rising or Nikosi is here. What's up, Stan? Any thoughts on the Citi custom cash? Citi credit card system. I just got my first card with them with the double cash for 10.5 credit limit. Hoping for a new premium card with them with American Airline transfer partner. Yeah, I think that their system is awesome. I think you should get the Citi Star Premier to unlock those points to get you some of those transfer partners. So that's the next step I would go for that. And once you get that card, obviously I'm a big fan of Citi Custom Cash Card too. And so they have great offerings. If they had American Airlines as a transfer partner, it would be a game changer for sure. A buddy, Shad Kerr is here, late to the party. By the way, Shad Kerr is my longest standing member. I believe he's been a member for 2 years on my channel. So thank you so much for that. Late to the party, I started the US Bank process moving from B of A Merrill Edge. Surprisingly, I was instantly approved for the Smartly card with a $15,000 limit. Nice work. I just need to move Merrill Edge over than 4%. LOL. Nice. So yeah, I personally, I think that's great that you're going to see the Smartly card. I would just caution that of course, you can always move it back and forth, but as we have been talking about previously, the Smartly card could get nerfed, probably not in the first year, but make it nerfed at some point. So make sure to have some backup plan for that if it does. And so obviously Bank of America is that backup plan, so you can always transfer that, ACATS transfer that out. But yeah, 4% cash back is pretty cool, and I'm on board with that too. We're going to go over that very, very shortly. I'm just trying to get through the remainder of the comments here before we get started on the actual presentation. Ed Zhao says, I was approved for the Inc. Preferred 3 weeks ago. Would Capital One consider that against me if I wanted the Venture X right now? No other new cards in the last 8 months and have history with both banks. I think it would be fine. It's only one card in the past 3 weeks. It's only one hard pull. So I think it'd be fine. I think you never know until you try. Capital One is one of those banks where you just don't know what's going to happen when you apply. So just apply. Just understand you may get 3 hard pulls. There are situations where you can freeze certain credit reports to get around that. But, ultimately it is 3 hard pulls on all bureaus. So just know that's going to happen when you apply for the Venture X. Okay. Let's see. Yuri has a lot of experience with this. So he says he likes the Citi Thank You program. He gets most of his points of thank you points than any other program. And he has all of them except built. Very cool. All right, AJ Sings, and thanks for being honest in your videos, man. Respect. Absolutely. I will always tell you what I think and what I believe, and will never give you any kind of biased information, at least from my perspective, knowing that I am a little biased about US Bank Eligible Reserve, but that card's gone now, so we don't have to worry about that. But I'll always share my own experiences. So if I think it's in your best interest, I'll definitely share it so you can make your own decision for your own credit card setup. So I appreciate that, AJ. All right. Vincent says, for the Hilton Aspire card regarding the quarterly flight credit, can you charge $50 to United or Southwest Travel Bank, and would that trigger the credit? I believe that it would trigger the credit. I don't know if Southwest has a travel bank, but Southwest does have flights under $100. So that is certainly something that has been helpful, I believe. Also think that the flight credit is actually for flights too. So I think it should trigger without an issue. I don't have the Aspire card, so I think that's what that is. But I'm pretty sure that the travel bank would work, but you also obviously buy a flight with it, and that would be fine too. Okay. All right. So I think we're good with most of these here. Shad Kerr says, good point. I talked to the Bank of America rep, and they said if you qualify for Platinum Hours by November, you get it for the entire next year. This will be a test. That's awesome. I didn't know that. I thought it was like a 3-month rolling average, but if that's the case, then that's actually pretty cool. Thanks for leaving that data point. Shad. Okay. One more thing. Ashwinwi Modoran, sorry, I butchered that. Currently college student, have B of A flexible cashback and built. I believe you are talking about the customized cash rewards card and built. Should I try the Marriott Bonvoy game so before Chase Trifecta so I can start 4 years game early? Should I get other cards instead? I mean, it depends. If you think that you're going to be staying at mainly Marriott's, I think getting started early is fine. I honestly think in the college level area, it's probably better to just get flexible points currencies first before you move into the hotel game. So I would just say get something like, those Chase cards, the Freedom Flex, Freedom Limited, Sapphire Preferred. That's what I would recommend more than I would recommend doing Marriott cards, because as a college student, you're just really spending money. Yes, you're staying at hotels too. So it depends on the person, but I would recommend going for flexible point cards currencies first. Also, Capital One cards are pretty good too. So if you want to do like the Saver card, that's a great thing as well. JP Knowledge says, hit the like button. Thank you. There are 125 of you here in the stream right now, which is great. So hit the like button and also put my banner up here to please hit the like button if you're getting value. That would really mean a lot to me. We are going to get started on the presentation now because that is fairly important to do because we have a lot of great questions here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that quickly. So we are into our question and answer from the community post, and there's a lot of great questions specifically about the Smartly credit card. So we'll go to that, those questions and some others in general. But first, I want to kind of talk about this thing that happened yesterday and last week. I don't know if you guys saw this in the news or were affected by this specifically, but Capital One had this big meltdown with their like direct deposit transfers and payments and those sorts of things. And there was an outage apparently with, I want to say it's FIS, which is their third party money transfer system thing. And a lot of people weren't able to get their direct deposits. Like if they got on Wednesday, it doesn't show up until maybe Friday or Saturday. I think at this point, it's actually getting much better. But I received this email on the left that let me know about this on Wednesday. Now, fortunately, I don't bank with Capital One per se. I have some accounts with them, but they just kind of sit there and don't do much. So I wasn't personally affected by this, and I obviously have no Capital One credit cards. But I'm curious, though. I saw a lot of posts on Reddit of people who unfortunately live paycheck to paycheck, having issues getting the direct deposit, which is really not great for them. And so it just kind of shows how we can't really trust our money to banks. We have to have diversification is good, but it's just a really unfortunate situation. I just wanted to know, out of all of you guys, do any of you guys did you get that kind of situation happen to you? So we're going to use that question as a way to get into the polls here. So if you go to menti.com and enter the code here on the bottom, it'll actually get you into the polling system. So we'll have a question at the end of one of the other questions that will be helpful. So just go into menti.com, and then basically what we're looking at is to answer the question, were you affected by this Capital One outage? So I personally am also going to go to the website myself, and I'm going to go ahead and put that code in too. And you can go ahead and click the like button on the bottom right there to make sure that everything is looking good and you're connected, and let me know that you're connected, which is awesome. And so again, were you affected by this outage? Yes or no? And we're going to go ahead and move that over here in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so here is the poll. Were you affected by this Capital One outage? Yes or no? So we have a lot of no's. And we have some yeses. It looks like a lot of you guys here don't have main bank accounts with Capital One, which is actually probably good because as we all know, we want to have multiple accounts so that we're not stuck when one bank fails. I also will say though that I don't know this for sure, but a lot of my audience is probably going to be those that have good credit scores. They have their financials in order. So I feel like a lot of my audience isn't living paycheck to paycheck. They aren't actually in that much debt, if any debt. So I think that would be consistent with what I would have expected. But I'm glad to hear that a lot of you weren't affected by the outage. If you were affected by the outage, I'm really sorry to hear about that. Hopefully they'll, if you haven't got your direct deposit yet, hopefully you get it soon. That is really important because a lot of people pay their bills right after the direct deposit, and if it's not there, then a lot of bills get they fall behind, or things can't get paid for, or you're depending on it for food. And I know Capital One is also mainly in Washington D.C., and so even if you're not a subprime borrower or subprime person, if you pay with Capital One, there's a big storm in DC and getting colder and colder. And so having access to money to prepare for that is also very important too. So hopefully it gets really taken care of. Gunadarma says, Capital One cleared direct deposit by evening, working on 300 bonus and churn. That's great. T. Williams says, everyone smart uses Fidelity CMA. I agree. That's a great account to have. And so, yeah, that is great to know. Okay, so we're done with that. So we're going to go ahead and move that out of the way, get this back over here. And then I also want to shout out, I believe I saw Mr. Where is it here? I saw his name pop up, and I want to just give him a quick shout out here. It's just this system is not helpful. Here he is. Andy Poe. You the man, Stan. Good to see you, Andy Poe. Andy has a channel that's been blowing up recently, so definitely check out his content. Good to see you here, and hopefully we can learn something from each other at some point soon. Awesome. Okay, so let's see. We have some other things about this too. Chad Pennycuff says, my pay showed up Wednesday early, but the credit card payments I made to Wednesday didn't clear till today. Joe said, looks like it came in this morning. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that a lot of you are getting that back together, but that was sort of a situation later or early last week. So I'm glad that it's coming to a close. All right, so let's start with our first question. There are potpourri questions that I will start with first. So I didn't actually know this, but potpourri actually is defined as a mixture of dried petals and spices placed in a bowl or small sack to perfume clothing in a room. I had no idea. I thought it was just a mixture of things. That's the second definition, but good to know that potpourri has two different definitions. So I thought that was fairly interesting. Okay, side note. First question comes from my boy Catch361, or sorry, 631. Sorry, I got that number wrong. He says, I'm looking at applying for the Marriott Bondless, which is the only Chase card I have currently is the Amazon Prime. So this is going to be his second Chase card, and he's at 324. His total max revolving credit is about 50,000 with annual salary of 60,000. Should I consider lowering my credit limit on the Amazon card before applying, or do we know if Chase is more concerned with the total available of credit limit they're giving you versus across all lenders? Per an answer from you from an earlier question, I am waiting for an elevated offer. Just know that will be my next card more than likely. Okay, so you're going to apply for the Boundless card. You have one Chase card at 8K. Sorry, is it 8K? 8K credit limit, yep. But you have an annual salary around 60K. So here's the answer to that. And so there's been this general guideline where the total Chase credit limit is about 50% of your stated household income. And that is a good guideline to use. It's not a rule, it's a guideline. So some people have less than that. Some people have more than that. So if you have a 60K annual income approximately, that means Chase would likely give you around 30K of total credit limit. It's usually not based off of your total across all cards. It's based on the total that you have with them specifically. So because you have an 8K Amazon Prime card, I do not believe there's any reason to do a credit limit decrease before. And I would just apply for that card because you still have a lot of room to go, at least in terms of this general guideline. Now, you will know when you reach the max revolving credit limit because when you apply for a card and get denied, the bank will tell you you have reached your maximum credit limit. It's happened with me, both with Amex and with the Chase. So I know what those maximum limits are. But until you reach that limit, you don't really know. And so that's kind of what I would say with that. Just apply for the card when you find that elevated welcome offer. That would be the best thing for you. And I would recommend that course of action. No need to do a limit decrease. That's really for those of us who have already reached the max. We know that there's a max already. That's just my opinion. Obviously, if you want to have an easier application approval process, then you can do a decrease beforehand. But in your case, I would not do that. Okay, next question comes from Trip P, who I believe was in the chat a little while ago. He asked a question that me and my wife are trying to book a Qatar Q Suites from Atlanta to Doha, and I'm only able to find availability for one person in any of the date ranges. Whenever I switch the passengers to two people, it only shows economy, not the Q Suites anymore. Don't know if you have any tips. So first things first, I'm not the best person to ask about this because I don't do a lot of international flight redemptions, but I know that there's a ton of people in this chat that does. So if you have any answers to him or any suggestions for Trip P, definitely leave it down in the comments so he can figure out or he can take that information from you. I do have some suggestions though. Basically, because you have that happening, my guess is that there's just not award availability in the Q Suites on that particular flight to Doha from Atlanta. However, there are a lot of other situations to think about. So we try to think of this as a skill, this flight redemptions, but also some of this is luck because sometimes it's just not in the cards for you to fly from on one particular flight just because of the availability or whatever the situation is. So if you only want Q Suites and you want two of them, but they're not giving you two of them, I think it may be better to consider a positioning flight to a different city with more availability. I know it's not the best thing. Yes, you're spending more money to get a redemption, but Q Suites is no joke. It's one of the best products on the market. And so if you want to have that particular experience, you probably have to pay for it to some degree. And so with that being said, I did quickly Google which flights go to Doha. in Q Suites from which airport. And so Q Suites looks beautiful, by the way. That's what it looks like for two people. So I can see why you want to do this and how awesome it looks. But there are a number of cities you can go to that also offer flights with Q Suites. And those are all listed down there. I'm not going to list them all, really one by one, but the ones that are closest to you would be from Atlanta, I would say is like Boston, Dallas, Houston, Miami, New York City, DC, and Philadelphia. I think those are the ones that I would say would be the ones that I would choose from. And that's why these flight aggregator sites are really helpful. So, for example, I use Daily Drop Pro. I haven't used it for an actual flight yet, but I have had good experiences looking at it and just kind of toying with it. And so definitely check that out if you haven't already. There's also things like Seats.Aero, which is really good. And other ones that I don't even know the names of because I'm not in this. I'm not as experienced with redeeming flights. But I think that's what I would do if I was in your situation, was try to find a different city with maybe more flights than just maybe one. So maybe JFK has like 2 flights a day or something like that, and maybe there's more availability to get those 2 seats for award bookings when you want to. And of course, there's going to be those things where you have to book like well in advance versus like 4 weeks before. All those things apply as well. Sups S says he had just done a Q Suites return trip last month, and man, it was so good. And I'm so jealous. Maybe one day I'll get to do the same thing, but that's awesome to hear you had a great experience. And so there's that. Okay, so hopefully that helps your question. Again, any suggestions for a trip P here, just let them know. That would be really helpful for everyone, especially those of us who want to go onto Q Suites and do 2 seats instead of 1. Okay, so the first section I like to start off with is this credit card setup question. I really do like this one because it does bring up a lot of interesting dynamics when it comes to when you are first starting out and what you should do with your credit card setup and what direction you should go. So this question comes from Curbsy. Curbsy says, I currently have the Venture, Built, Delta Platinum. Let's see, Delta Platinum. He flies for Delta for works 3 to 5 times per year, the Chase Unlimited, and a US Bank Cash Plus, which is his first credit card, and he says it's sock drawered. Is it worth for him to build out a setup, or should he just hunt welcome offers? With his spend being quite low, other than food, is it hard for him to know what cards? It's hard for him to know what cards to get. The differences between 2x and 3x doesn't seem worth it. Should I get more Chase cards for the trifecta, or exclusively hunt welcome offers? I also am on Team Travel, and he's at 424 until July, when he will drop down to 224. So a lot of things going on here. I think pictures mean more than words sometimes, and I think I'll do that now. So this is his setup, the 5 cards that he mentioned. Again, the Delta Platinum, the Built, the Venture, the Freedom Unlimited, and the US Bank Cash Plus. And just so that we can remember what each multiplier is on each card, here's an overlay of that as well. And so you can see that the Delta Platinum earns 3x on Delta, 2x on US dining, and 2x on US groceries, which is not great, but that's what it is. Built has, of course, 3x on dining, 2x on travel, 1x on rent. The Venture card, which has a $95 annual fee, has 2x on everything. The Freedom Unlimited has 3x on dining and 1.5x on everything. And the Cash Plus card has 5% select categories, and you can choose 2 of them at $2,000 per quarter. And so that's what his setup is. So you can see he has 2 possible catch-all credit cards. He also has the Delta card for his Delta spending and for the Delta benefits. And he has the Built card for what I assume to be rent, as well as the Cash Plus card for whatever categories he wants to use. So in terms of his strategy, he also mentions that he has low spending, with food being his highest category. So the question then becomes, and that's his main question, is should I go for a setup, or should I go for a welcome offer in terms of just getting welcome offers? And the way I approach this is that if you're just starting out, I always recommend having a core credit card setup first. That way, when you're doing the welcome offers or trying to get more welcome offers, you have something to fall back on. But at least you have a core credit card strategy and setup to actually make something work out for you if you're not in a situation where you are not working on a welcome offer. Now, having said that, another reason why I think a core setup is good for you, and there's plus and minuses to this recommendation, is that you do say you have low spending. So in a low spend situation, you're not able to hit welcome offers as frequently as you would want to if you're using just a welcome offer strategy. Of course, there are lower minimum spend requirement welcome offers, so there's that. But I think that would be something to think about. So again, always recommend having a core credit card setup. But if you feel like you're going for a certain uh, hotel system, airline system, flexible point currency, welcome offers will be the best way to earn points quickly if that's your goal. And the one thing I didn't hear from your question is what the goal is with all this. Is it to get some just regular cash back from every spend? Are you going for a trip? Are you looking to do build up some points for a certain redemption? Like all that stuff is very important because that'll help guide to what you want to specifically do. And so Shad Kerr also comes in and says, this question makes me think of the comment you've said before that you have to know your why. That makes these questions easier to answer. And I agree with that. We just talked about that. And actually, also Uncle Luke has mentioned that in his videos too, is to always know your credit card why. Because once you know your destination, you'll be able to build a roadmap to get there. And that's really, really important. Yuri's tongue-in-cheek here saying he should get the US bar and use it everywhere, which is totally cool, except you can't do that anymore. So good idea in theory, but not quite yet. And so in terms of the next part of this, so you can see that there are options for him. And so he did say his food spend was the highest. And so the one card that came to my mind immediately for that was the Capital One Saver card. And the Capital One Saver, as we all know, has no annual fee, 3x at grocery stores, 3x on dining, as well as entertainment and streaming services. Also has that 5x kind of city Capital One travel portal with hotels, vacation, car rentals, all that stuff. But that Saver card is a great food card for you. It has no annual fee and no foreign transaction fees. And I think it's really great because you can now pair it with a card you already have, which is the Venture card, which does have a $95 annual fee, which is fine. But it does give you the ability to, transfer those points out to transfer partners if you want. Also, it gives you a nice catch-all card with not a lot of frills. Like it's not the Capital One Venture X, but it's the Venture card, which I think is really great. And so that would be a great 2-card setup to use that costs only $95. QC Man saying, hit the like button. I appreciate that. If you're getting value, definitely hit the like button, but we're going to keep going with his question here. So the next option, though, is you also had, like I mentioned before, another catch-all credit card. And that credit card actually is the Chase Freedom Unlimited. So there's actually another setup you can consider doing as someone who is just starting out or just trying to figure out, do I need a core credit card setup or not? And you can see that if you use the classic Chase trifecta, you have a 5x routine category on the Chase Freedom Flex, 3x on restaurants on all the cards, 3x on online groceries on the Sapphire Preferred, which is not great, but there are ways around that using things like Kroger Pay or Walmart Pay, things like that. I'm not sure if Walmart Pay is one, by the way, but I think so. And then 1.5x on everything else. And so those are the two setups you can look at and compare and contrast. So one, you do get a 5x multiplier on, but it's not consistent and it could or could not be helpful. For example, the Freedom Flex does have groceries in this category, which is great, but it's not going to be there again for the next 9 months. So that's not great. But at least with the Capital One setup, you do have a situation where you can choose between 3x at grocery stores and dining, and you can use those two categories all year round, which is really cool because you don't have to really think about rotating categories and activate them and all this other stuff. Okay. Yuri also says, no, he should go for City instead. Also agree with getting the Saver. So I think City is a great option. Yuri, I know you're a big fan of City, and they do have a great trifecta like you're talking about, the City Startup Premier, the Custom Cash, and the City Double Cash. But he has to get 3 cards, and he has to get a new issuer. And so I'm trying to figure out a way for him to get started on a core credit card setup first, because that way it's easier for him to get started and get a core setup. After he's completed that core setup, then I think maybe it's worthwhile to try a different setup if it's going to be, if it's worthwhile to get into City or not. Not saying City is bad, because it's definitely a great setup. But in his situation with his particular cards, I think either going the Chase route or the Capital One route is actually better. Josh Ing also says he could also consider the Amex Gold if you really like Delta, but the grocery category is restricted to the US, maybe the green, depending on the situation. It's true. We don't know if it's grocery spend versus dining spend, which is the more often or what he spends on more often. The gold card's hard, though. It's got a high annual fee, a lot of statement credits. I mean, transferring to Delta kind of sucks because there's a transfer fee when you do that too. So it's not really the best way to use MR points, in my opinion. I also think that as someone starting out, I think just kind of going mid-tier cards is better. But of course, it depends on what's going on. The gold card is really a card that you want to use if you have a lot of high spend on food, which he already said he has low spend on. And so if you have high spend, you're doing 25K in groceries, excuse me, 50K in dining, like that's huge. But if not, then that may not be the way to go. QC also pops up saying if Capital One had Amex or Chase partners, that duo would unequivocally be the best in the game. But Capital One partners aren't great for everyone. Even domestic alliance bookings run into availability issues. And I can see that. The partners are a big part of this too, because that's why you're using it. The thing about Chase, which is nice, is that they can be used for cash back as well. And so I think that's going to be one easy thing to do if you want to go with Chase. Okay. Chad also has something important to say, which is I'd add Saver for Capital One locks you out, which is a very real thing. If you have a lot of cards, Capital One typically doesn't like that. So you want to make sure that you add that Saver card because they could, if you have too many cards, just straight up deny you and you can't get the card anymore. So that's definitely a thing. But also you want to watch out for Chase 524. So that's kind of what I think about his situation. Now there are two pathways to go, like I mentioned, the Capital One pathway and the Chase pathway. So going through that, I do want to mention something is that for welcome offers, what's nice about building the core credit card setup is that you also earn welcome offers along the way. So with either the Capital One pathway or the Chase pathway, there are welcome offers on the Saver One as well as the Sapphire Preferred and the Freedom Flex. And the nice thing about those cards is that typically those welcome offers have lower min spend requirements, which fits perfectly in your scenario of having a low spend requirement, or sorry, having a lower spend just in general. And so that's why I think that this is good. Either way you go, you're going to get both welcome offers and a new card for a core setup, which is going to be getting two birds with one stone, which is pretty cool. And so if we look at the roadmap for either situation, if you do the Capital One situation, you're Chase 424, but you actually will be 224 in July. So what I would do is apply for the Capital One Saver card now, and you'll only be 524 if you get the card. So you get to figure out, if you get the card, that's great. You'll have another card on your 524 status, but at least you have the card. But if you get denied for the card, at least it doesn't affect your 524 status. So that's helpful. Assuming you apply for the card and you get it, you have 6 months to age off those 3 hard pulls anyways. And so because of that, that's great because then by July 2025, you'll be 324 and you can apply for your Chase cards then, whichever one you want, because you're going to be below that 524 threshold. My boy Chad Penkoff hit us with a super chat. OG Saver for a 4x on super chats. Amazing. Good job. That's awesome that you're able to get that. But yes, I appreciate the super chat and thank you so much for your continued support, Chad. I really appreciate that. Okay, so that's the Capital One roadmap. When we go to the Chase roadmap, this is what we're looking at. And the Chase roadmap shows, you're Chase 424 now, but you're 224 in July. So you have one slot open. You can apply for the Chase Freedom Flex, the CSP, or another Chase card if you want, but you have to wait for an elevated offer. And I think that's important because right now, there's no good welcome offer for the CSP other than the standard offer. The Freedom Flex offer is the standard offer for what I remember, but I think both of them can potentially get an elevated offer. So you want to wait for that until that happens. So that's really helpful. And so I would just wait for an elevated offer and then get that card. And then you just have to stay under 524, whatever you decide to do. And then when you're done with the Chase cards, you can move on. So stick with Chase, go with Capital One, and have Chase available. Those are the kind of the two options I'm seeing here. I want to also mention that Ashwini Demoteron says, I want to build my Chase setup and maybe get a hotel card, but I'm scared I would get denied for the Capital One cards. Should I build my Chase setup plus one hotel card, then have 6 cards and risk Capital One rejection? I would say if you want to build your Chase setup, build your Chase setup. Don't worry about Capital One. I don't have any Capital One cards and I'm totally fine. It's okay. They have great cards. I'm not going to say that they're bad, but I'm not going to, if you want to do something, you should do what you want to do. Okay. So that is the situation. And so for those two situations, the question then becomes, what do you want to do? Given his situation, if you were him, what would you do in terms of getting a Capital One setup or a Chase setup? And again, you have low spending, food's your highest priority in terms of categories. So we're going to go to the poll here, and the poll is going to be let me see here, on the Menti. So go into menti.com, enter that slide there, enter that number, and we're going to go to that question. The second question is going to be, would you go for this Capital One Duo or the Capital Duo or the Chase Trifecta? Again, you can hit that like button to let me know that you're in the chat already. If you already had joined, that would be helpful. Please hit the like button if you're getting value, and also use this code on menti.com to get access to the polling software too. So what would you do? And we're going to go ahead and start that voting here in 3, 2, 1. And here we go. So would you go for the Capital One Duo or the Chase Trifecta? It says yes or no. I know that's not clear, so sorry about that. But yes is Capital One Duo and no is Chase Trifecta. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So I voted for myself, and that's the only one so far. Is there anyone else that wants us to place their vote at all for this? There we go. We have some people here. Let me see. I don't think I can change it in the middle of it being presented, but maybe I can try. Let's see. Capital One and Chase. Did that work? Yeah, it did. That's pretty cool. It like updates live. So that is the choices there. Capital One or Chase. So you see it's pretty, I would say it's a little bit more than half for Capital One. Maybe there's some Chase at all. Again, if you want to join the voting, go to menti.com and enter the 8-digit code, and then you can go ahead and submit your vote. But it looks like more people go for Capital One than Chase. And so I actually picked Capital One. I think it's a better way to go for his situation. If we remember from when we looked at his credit card situation from before, the cards he already had, this is what he had from before. And you can see that it's pretty random. There's like cards from many issuers. Actually, each card is from one issuer. So he has Wells Fargo, he has Amex, he has Capital One, he has Chase, he has US Bank. So because of that, you can go in any direction. But which direction is the best one? And for me, I think just based off of the way he's describing his situation, I would do Capital One. But if there's some goal with getting like UR points, then that would change things as well. Chad also says a good thing too. He says you can always get Chase cards after. I agree. Everyone says get Chase cards first, but you don't necessarily have to do that, especially if you watch your Chase 524 status pretty well. That would be another thing to think about too. Josh Ing says Capital One would be easier to manage and it has no foreign transaction fees, so it's easier to manage too. I agree with that as well. So there's that. Okay, so it looks like it's about half and half. Again, there's no right or wrong answer, just only the right answer for you. So we're going to go ahead and stop the poll here now. And that would be that. So I hope that really helps give you an answer to your question. Curbsy, hopefully you're able to get that, choose whichever one you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and get that back over here to here. And then I think you had a comment. Okay. So there's that. I don't know if, let's see, anything else we got going on here with questions. This is my question. So this is my question. So if any of the context I've given a couple of the previous chats, hopefully that helps you answer. So I'm going to go back to the chats to see what you said because I didn't have a chance to review the chats. Okay, so here's my question. I'm looking for international travel once per year. I'm going to put actually this slide up instead so we can kind of look at your setup. I'm looking for international travel once per year, probably on Delta because work gives me a decent amount of miles. Okay, great. So we have additional information. So he's looking for international travel once per year, which is great because Capital One has no foreign transaction fees. So that would be another kind of nudge towards Capital One. You said probably on Delta. So you have a Delta card. So all those benefits on the Delta Platinum apply. Things like the MQD boost and the priority bags and the free check bag, priority boarding, free check bags, things like that. Which is good. So you have that. So we have some additional information. He said he also wants to venture X at some point, but I'm moving around every 6 months for work. I want to know my final placement for work and know my home airport until I do that. I think that makes sense. You want to know like if the Capital One lounges are where you at, if you have flights that make sense for you. One of the things that is another possibility because you have the venture card already is that you can always apply for the Venture X eventually, which I think you said in your comment down here. You said you're approved for the Saver and Venture X, which is great. That's good news already. Okay, so we kind of got all that. So if you want to get the Venture X, eventually, the two options is apply for it because you never know. But if you really want it, you can always product change up to the Venture X. I'm not sure if you can have both the Venture and the Venture X, so I think that's going to be part of the issue. If anyone knows that off the top of their head, can you let me know down in the chat because I can't remember if that's true or not. It would be nice if you could have both, because that way you can always get the Venture X first and then downgrade or cancel the Venture card if you get that one. But I can't remember if you can do that or not. But if you can, that would be the way I would do it. If not, then you have to make a decision if you want to get the welcome offer on the Capital and Venture X, or just product change up to the Venture X immediately, because that way you're guaranteed to get the card just in general. I know Uncle Luke did that. Is he had another card, Capital One, and product change up to the Venture X, and is now getting immense value from it anyways. So I think that's really great. Okay, so there is that question. So that's a break. Next question section is going to be the US Bank Smartly, which is what a lot of you are probably here for. So, okay. And also, just to go with that, there's someone did get both. You can have both. You can have both. Okay. So you can definitely have both. Thank you for clarifying that. So the next section is about the US Bank Smartly card and kind of what the situation is with that 4%. Like, is that 4% really worth it? And the answer is, maybe, maybe not. And one of the questions comes from Andrew B., who did ask, I'd be interested to hear your impression of Spaithco's experience with the US Bank and the Smartly card. He was interviewed by Matt Clausen, how will you be approaching the 4% multiplier so that it's not a nightmare scenario? And so what Andrew is talking about is this video here by Matt Clausen. So if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth watching. It's about a 30 to 40-minute video, but Spaithco goes over his experience about applying, getting the brokerage, transferring money in, not really liking the interface, and some limitations of the US Bank brokerage and why it may not be the best fit for everybody. And so it's on Matt Clausen's channel, so check it out. Basically, I watched the whole video myself and made some notes. And so basically, this is kind of what I took away from that video. So with Spaithco, he mentioned that, he always likes to set up trust accounts right away, just because he is used to that as his wife as a state attorney. But basically, the trust account, the way to do that is not as streamlined or as easy as it should be with typical brokerage accounts. And so that was an issue he had establishing the account. The second thing was the ACATS transfer situation was not ideal for him either. It took him about 2 weeks to transfer it in. He actually eventually didn't like it, and he actually ACATS transferred it out too. And at the time of the video that he did with Matt Clausen, it was still pending. But at this point now, I talked to him a couple of days ago, and he said that it actually is completed, which is good. But it took a while for them to get it in and out. And there's, you needed to like send in a signature. There was all this other stuff that became problematic, something you wouldn't expect for a simple ACATS transfer in or ACATS transfer out. ACATS transfer being, of course, taking all of your existing brokerage and moving everything in kind into the new brokerage without buying or selling securities. That's what an ACATS transfer is. And so one thing he really commented on, and I agree with him, is that it has a very poor interface. Like he said in his interview with Matt Clausen, we all like to riff on Bank of America and Merrill Edge and their system, which is also not that great, but it's actually, if you look and compare that with like US Bank, it's like, it looks very different, and it's not as good as Merrill Edge. It makes Merrill Edge look really good, actually. So it's got a poor interface. You can't really do dividend reinvestment that easily. And I think that's one of the most basic things you can do with a brokerage account is when you get dividends from whatever security you have, you want those to reinvest, not sit in cash. You could always like take it and like purchase it yourself, but like that's kind of annoying. So if you have that automatic, that's better. So doing that with US Bank is very difficult. You got to call in and they have to like do it for you or some jazz like that, but they can do it. It's just harder to figure out. And then you also have an issue with selling tax lots. And what that means is that, if you have a security and you bought like one security like 3 years ago, you bought the same security like 6 months ago, the 3-year security is going to be in the long-term capital gains bracket, whereas the 6 month will be in the short-term capital gains bracket. And so you want to sell one or the other. You should be able to choose which one you can sell. And so with US Bank, apparently you can only choose the oldest one first. And so there's no way to do that. But if you want to sell tax stocks, you have to do it through a broker, and it's a broker-assisted trade that costs $25. So it's really, really bad. Chad Pennicuff, who I know also has this account as well, he says that US Bank investing blows. If you're coming from Fidelity, Schwab, or even Chase, get ready for a huge downgrade. And I agree with that. And I'll explain what I'm going to do about that in the future. He also says US Bank charges a $25 fee for every transaction in a no-load, no-fee mutual fund if you want to buy, which is true too. So you want to only buy stocks or ETFs. Mutual funds are a no-go with US Bank. That's pretty similar to Merrill Edge too. So that's not something I'm going to hold against US Bank. pretty much if you're, Fidelity and Schwab are really what you'd be using, maybe Vanguard, but I hear the Vanguard interface sucks too. So really it should just be Fidelity and Schwab are the two that you really should put your serious money in. I would argue. If you want to do some other stuff like randomly because of some benefits or some other like situation, I think that's fine. But I would never put my like main funds in a non-Fidelity, non-Schwab brokerage. It's kind of the way it is. That's my experience. QCman also agrees. He says Schwab is excellent, and my friends say Fidelity is the same. Said here USB blows. The thing about US Bank though is that you don't want to use this as a main brokerage. It's just not what it's designed for, and I don't know if they want that to happen or not. Based on their interface, that's definitely not what that happened because no one's going to stay with them. But that's kind of where we're at with this. Chad Pennycuff says, pro tip, if you're moving over ETFs to meet minimum, you have to call them to set up the ETFs for dividend and reinvest. Yeah. So it's the thing about the dividend reinvestment is that you have to set, at least for what I have experienced, every single ETF or stock, you have to individually select to have dividend reinvestment. So if you have a lot of ETFs or a lot of stocks in your portfolio, you got to do it for each single one. And usually it's pretty easy because you just do it on the internet. But if you have to call someone and do it, it's more of a hassle. And so that's also a big problem too. David Williams says E-Trade is the worst, always 40-minute hold times. I've never tried E-Trade, but if they're anything like Morgan Stanley, then I would probably agree with that too. So that's the situation with the key points from his video and his interview with Matt Clausen. And I agree with like 100% with what Spaethco says. And Spaethco does a really good job kind of breaking down his experience and like what he felt when he was doing things. And I think it's worth a watch for those of you who are curious about what that experience will be like for you if you were to move money in your brokerage to US Bank. But I do want to mention one thing though, and that one of the things that I like to always say to people is that you always want to plan ahead, right? And so when making a big money decision, it's always better to measure twice and cut once, right? And so the way this translates to US Bank is that you already know that the brokerage sucks. So you have to think about what can you do to make it suck less, right? There are things you can do that can make it suck less. And if you think about that beforehand, it's going to be a much better experience moving the money back in, right? And so I keep that in mind. For the ACATS transfers in, it's for him, it's hard because I don't know what his ACAT transfer in, what the name on the account was that may have caused an issue. But for me, when I do an ACATS transfer, I always want to make sure that the owner of the source account is the same as the destination account. So if you have your name, it's your name. If it's a joint, it's a joint. If it's a trust, it's a trust. Like I don't want to do something where I have a trust account and I'm sending it over to like an individual account or vice versa. And so can those work? Yes. Should the brokerages help you with that because that's their job? Yes. Does that happen in practice? No, right? And so I think it behooves you to make that process as easy as possible when you do ACATS transfers, is to make sure that the owner of the account is the same as a source account. Now, there's going to be options, as you'll see in the next slides, that you can choose options where you don't have to have that happen. And I don't recommend this because then it just causes more paperwork, more drama. And so just make it easy for the bank to do one to the other, right? When you transfer out, and this is generally speaking for most brokerages, but you always want to pull from another bank or brokerage that will give you the information that you want. And the reason why I say that is because if you use something like Fidelity, they give you a really nice tracker that tracks the way your ACATS transfer works. And so that's a really nice thing with Fidelity. I'm sure Schwab has something similar. And so I would imagine that, that would be the way to go to just make sure that you use a ACATS transfer using a brokerage that you trust and you really have a good relationship with as well. So that's one thing. The second thing is the banking experience, and we'll kind of cover that in a little bit too. I prefer that the bank or brokerage that I transfer to has a physical location that I can go to as well for questions. And so I'm not sure where Spaethco is located, but in my area in Southern California, there are a lot of US banks around. So if I have to go in to figure something out, I don't have to call them. I can just go to a banker and say, hey, this is my situation, what's up? And they can solve it right away in front of me. If they need a signature, proof of identification, all that stuff can be handled in office, in person, and there's no questions about that. That's not going to be everyone's experience, so I get that. But if you can do that, that would be great. I also would mention this too, and I know that we all are in this day and age where investment accounts are everywhere. There's tons of options. There's a lot of advanced tools like with options and margin and other stuff that I don't even know about. And so when you look at banks like Chase, Bank of America, now US Bank, I wouldn't rely on advanced tools with these big bank brokerages. They're not going to be good. It- It's going to cause you more stress than you really need to have, right? And so things like dividend reinvestment is like the probably the most advanced I would get with them. And then really from my perspective, when I look at things like Merrill Edge or US Bank, it's really just do buy and hold only. When I want to go into the, if I want to ever sell or anything, I'd probably ACAT transfer out first and then use my main brokerage to actually buy and sell stuff. I wouldn't actually use Merrill Edge or US Bank to sell. That's the way I've approached it. And so I think that's part of, how I plan on using that 4% cashback card and getting to the 4% level. So this is an example of Merrill Edge, right? So this is my Merrill Edge account. And so you can see that there's about $100,000 in it. And I'm going to explain to you why this is the way it is. So if you look at the charts, it's a 1-year chart of what happened to my money over time. And so with this account, I've had this for many years. Basically, you can see the year I had the money in the S&P 500 or the total market, I guess. And so this whole year, that account grew by 23%. And can you imagine what I did with this account this entire year, last year, 2024? The answer is absolutely nothing. I did absolutely nothing with this account at all. It just sat there and made me 23%. At the end of that year, I took 23% or that $23,000 and I took it out by ACATS into my main brokerage and we start over again, right? That's what I did with this account. So it gave money, grew, took it out. And then what's nice about this is because you did nothing for the whole year, and the same thing for 2023 as well, all those 2023 funds are now long-term capital gains. And so I can, that's totally fine. Um, I don't have to buy anything in this account for now. Now, there have been several years where in the S&P 500 didn't actually do positive, it did negative. So like I think 2022 it went down 18% or something. And so in that situation, I did have to put more money into the account and buy more securities at the beginning of the year. But really that's good because you're buying, quote, buying low. And so really you're just buying money and buying your securities and just holding it the whole time. And you're using the 100,000 just as a way to meet that asset requirement for that particular bank. And so that's what these accounts are designed for. And I only have one security in this account, and that's VTI. That's it. Very simple, no issues. And so it's not really account for active trading, both Bank of America and US Bank. You can see that with Bank of America, both of those banks, like you don't really want to do the active trading. I'm more of a passive investor anyway, so that makes sense for my situation. Now, if you want to reinvest dividends, this is how you would do that. You would go to the accounts tab and click on this little red guy here that I boxed over. That says dividend reinvestment. And after you do that, you can go ahead and click on the box, and you can see that you can actually select what you want to do with your dividends. And so you can select, no matter how many securities you have, you can just select it right off the bat. And for me, I have one. So I just select the one and you save it and then you're done. Because I never buy another security, I never have to touch this again. It's just basically forever. And that's how it should be with brokerages. Unfortunately, like we mentioned before, US Bank is not like this. And so let's kind of touch on that as well. Oh, sorry. And this is also an example of how to buy a security with Merrill Edge. It's very rudimentary. It's not that complicated, but it's not that advanced either. You just preview an order and buy it on a market order and buy it during the day. For US Bank, this is what that US Bank looks like. Now, so far, I don't have any money in the investment account except for $1,000. I just put the money in just to see what it would look like. On the bottom left here, you can see how they do indicate that you have free trades. So you can see, and it's pretty small, so I apologize for that, but you can see that I have 100 free trades and they expire at the end of this year, which is consistent with what they tell you when you have a certain amount of assets with Bank of America or have a Smartly reward system with them. But you may be asking yourself, why you have 100 free trades, but you already made one trade. So what happened? Well, I made a boo-boo. And that boo-boo was when I opened my investment account, I thought to myself, like most of all of you, I want to put money in to start investing, right? So I opened the account, I put money in right away, and I bought right away. That was a mistake. And the reason why that was a mistake is because I forgot to read the fine print below. Like Sledge always says, do your research. I did my research. And the research shows you that if you open an account with 100 free trades, when you open it, the free trades will be made available up to 4 business days from the confirmation of the account funding. So when I bought my original equities, my VTI, I actually got charged $4.95 at the time, and I was like, "Well, maybe they'll reimburse me." Turns out that's not the case. So it was a $5 cost of admission, which is unfortunate, but now I know. But for those of you who want to eventually get a U.S. bank brokerage, this is going to be the situation. To make sure to wait before you actually buy a security, because you want to wait for those 4 days to get that notification on that bottom left here that says you have free trades available. So that's just one thing that is just like not ideal, right? Is it like rudimentary? Is it fine? Yes. Is it the best? No. Um, that's kind of my experience with the US Bank, because I opened, the US Bank brokerage screen and I started laughing because it was just kind of, it wasn't really that great to look at. And so, excuse me, this is the US Bank investment, the buy screen. So if you want to buy a security, that's what it would look like. Very similar to Merrill Edge, nothing crazy, nothing advanced, but not like that beautiful either. And so there's that. And then if you want to ACATS transfer, excuse me, this is the main website. And so the main website, you actually have to go to transfers and assets transfer. Right. And so once you do that, you can click that button, and actually it's pretty easy to do that and put that into place. It's all online. And so you can see that you can transfer in the account from another account. And so what you would do is you would do that. And so you can see that there are several ways to do this. So again, it's really small to see, so I apologize for that. But you can either transfer in from an account that you own under a different name, which I imagine would be a trust account. And also you can also transfer it in from like a account from somebody else. So those are your 3 options for ACATS transfer. It's all automated. It's all fairly simple. From what I can see, I haven't actually ACATS transfer in because that's not my strategy. My strategy is actually to just put money in like I had with the Merrill Edge account, and just over time it'll get more and more in terms of getting more assets. So I don't plan on ACATS transferring in, mainly just ACATS transferring out at the end of the year if there's any extra funds. And so RemGB also has this particular account too. And he says, Stan, just to add a data point, his entry to US Bank Smartly system was really smooth. Most of the issues were only in the initial few days or weeks immediately after the card announcement. I applied a month later. The card did take over a week to come, but creation of investment account and transfer of assets was very smooth, and he was able to do it online without any need to call in person. His 4% level also got activated very quickly. And that's really good to hear, because everyone's experience is different. But, I think, measure twice, cut once, understand what you're getting into, and know why you have that account is going to be very important to figure out, if this is right for you. Shad says that asset transfer option takes a few days to be available. You'll get an error message that the account isn't eligible. I was getting frustrated, but I found out on the Bullhead forum. Great. Thank you for that. That's really helpful to know. Just like, the $495 transaction fee situation, I guess you got to wait like a week or so before you actually have the account confirmed and like, I guess, updated in their systems, which is, kind of archaic this day and age. But it sounds like you have to wait a week or so before you can transfer assets in easily. And so that's great advice to have. And then Chad says, I'm only playing with retirement funds at US Bank. See it, set it and forget it ETFs. Exactly. You just set it and forget it. That's really what it's only for. You're not here to do active trading. You're here to just basically buy something and hold it and then take it out when it's necessary. Chad also says, I also recommend looking at the securities you have with your previous brokerage to see if they're available at US Bank. Otherwise, if they're not, they might sell them or it could cause delays. And yes, that's a very good point too. When you ACATS transfer things with, for example, mutual funds or something that the other bank may not support, they may have to sell those securities, and you don't want to have that happen. So, because that may generate a taxable event. So definitely do your research on that and make sure that everything looks good from that perspective. Okay. So that was the spiel on US Bank. Hopefully that helped you figure out if this is the right path for you. Obviously, 100K is a lot of money, and it's something that, could be done with like a retirement account, or you can build it up over time. But again, this is something that we use just for getting that, 75% boost in Bank of America or the 4% cashback for the Smartly. Okay, so JP Knowledges also has another question related to that. I think the Smartly card is hands down the best catch-all card. as 4% back is unmatched. How much hesitation did you have with transferring such a large amount of money to US Bank? Or is it because these funds you transferred are a sit and hold play that you didn't think much of it? And I just answered that in the previous question, is that it's a sit and hold thing. I actually transferred money in via savings accounts, not through ACATS transfers. And so right now I'm going to convert all that savings account into actual securities over time. Just because right now I think the savings account rate is 3.5% APY, which is, it's not terrible, but it's not great either. I also mentioned, by the way, that when you transfer money into a savings account, make sure you transfer $25,000 or more, because that way that'll activate that 3.5% APY. Otherwise, it'll be stuck at the 0.0 whatever percent APY for like 3 months, which is not good. And so you want to make sure you transfer that 25,000 plus in first, because that way it'll automatically activate that elevated APY percentage, as opposed to doing incrementals. If you do it that way, they'll hold the APY until like I think the following month or so, where they take the average daily balance and ensure it's over 25,000, which is that limit for US Bank to have them get that APY to be as high as 3.5%. But to answer JP's all questions, basically I opened up savings, moved 100K into there. At the time, I was earning 4%, so it was a pretty good deal. But now it's 3.5%. So now I'm going to put that money into the brokerage and figure out what to do with it. And just in case you're wondering why I have 100K in savings, it's because I'm preparing to pay for a down payment for a house. And so that's part of the reason why I have that much in liquid cash at this point. Okay. So I know there's a couple other questions and concerns here. Chad Pennycuff says, US Bank fail. I had $900 in dividend cash. I tried to buy $900 of mutual fund and it said I didn't have enough cash, which is why I called. The $25 fee was not mentioned in the trade. Yeah, those people, they gotta watch. But now you know that those brokerage trades are very costly and may not be the best way to go. And then Steven Graziano says, if you have money you are conservative with, a CD is a great workaround without having to deal with all the fees. Maybe worth just doing 5K or 50K to get a cash shell 2.5 and 3X. Absolutely. I would say CDs are great, but right now the CD rates with US Bank are the same or worse than the savings account rates. And so I would just put in the savings account because at least you have access to your money at that point. But that is a good idea if the CD APYs are higher than the savings account and you can lock that money away for a certain period of time and you're okay with that. Okay. CC asked, just logged in right now. Excuse me. Sorry. Would 100K plus in US money market qualify for 4% with the Smartly card? I have no Smartly accounts. It would qualify. So you could use a money market account, but you want to also make sure you have a checking and a savings, because you definitely need savings to get the 4%. That's part of the requirements for the Smartly card. And then the checking helps you get access to the Smartly Rewards program, which will help you if you're going to put in that much money in anyways. Might as well get a Smartly Rewards benefit from that as well, which is separate from the Smartly card. So there's a Smartly Rewards with like assets with the bank, and then a Smartly card that has its own requirements too. So it's a little confusing. The naming should be better, but you should have a checking, a savings, and if you want a money market, you can. I want to say the money market right now is just a little bit higher APY than the savings account APY, but I have to look back because it changes all the time, and I can't remember off the top of my head if that's true or not. Okay, so there's that. So we're kind of moving along here. We have some more questions actually, but there's not much more. The next one I have is personal credit card setup questions. And so I apologize for the typo right there, but that is what the next set of questions is going to be. Dalton is questions here. Thanks you, Dalton, for asking this, and I hope you're still on the chat. With Amex likely to continue to increase annual fees, does there become a point when something like a Founders Card membership provides better or greater value than a Platinum Card? And I can only answer this through my own personal experience because I actually do have the Founders Card. I got referred for it, and then I was able to get it for $295 for the first year. So I'm in that first year period right now. And otherwise, the Elite card is $995, which I think is a kind of a lot of money. But looking at the card, the Founders Card in general, if you are a business owner and you spend a lot of money in the categories that give you discounts in, it's actually a very, very, very good card to have. However, the issue is that you may not spend a lot in those categories they offer, so it may not even be worth it to you. It's mainly for business owners that can spend in those discounted categories. But there are other things in the Founder Card that can be helpful for people like us in the credit card space. So I want to go over that in a moment. So for me, I do have the Amex Platinum Card, and my Platinum Card is the Morgan Stanley version of that card. And so for the Platinum card, I have a $695 annual fee. There's an authorized user fee that's standard of $195, but because I have the Morgan Stanley Platinum card, that authorized user is free. And so I had this card for many years. I've gotten a free authorized user the whole time. It's been a good savings for that particular version, but you do have to figure that out when you compare it to the Founders card if you're thinking of a personal Platinum. So the Founders card Elite is here. It's $995 or $295 if you get a referral for the first year. The authorized user fee is free, but the authorized user, basically, if you're an Elite member, the authorized user is going to be like your spouse or a team member, and they get the standard version of the card, not the Elite version of the card. If you want the Elite version, they have to get their own card. And so those are what the upfront costs are. QC Man says, Founders card question. Where's Joe Bretto? Yeah, Joe Barretto loves this card too, and we should have a conversation with Joe Barretto too, just because I want to see his thoughts about it as well. I know he talks about it a lot on his channel, but that's definitely cool. Dalton says I should have been more specific. I was referring mostly to the standard membership, and so we're going to get to that. But the spoiler alert is that the standard membership, unless you spend in those particular categories that they offer discounts in, it's not going to be worth it, because what you're looking at is the differences between the benefits on the Platinum card and the Founders card Elite. And so if you look at the right column here, the only benefit on this right column that comes on the standard card is Office Depot. The other benefits I've listed here are actually only on the Elite version of the card. So you actually need the Elite version to get the kind of the benefits you're looking for that can mirror what's on the Platinum card. So both cards get the Hilton Gold status. Both cards gets Avis Preferred Plus, both cards gets Hertz Presence Circle status, but the Platinum gets you Preferred Plus, and the Founders card Elite gets you the Presence Club status. And so I personally went with Avis, so this does actually help me out a little bit, getting Presence Club status. And I also use the United Airlines benefit, where you can get it's about a 15% discount on United flights. But I don't really fly with United that often, maybe like once or twice a year, so it's not really that good for me. But it does help a little bit, I guess. And then, of course, you have the Office Depot. I actually buy a lot of office supplies sometimes, and so using that discount does help me to get about a 15 to 20% discount on the things that I buy. So that's been pretty helpful. But out of the, I would say, I don't know, like 50 to 100 things that they offer in terms of discounts, that's literally the only one that benefits me. So I don't know if that's worth $295. It's definitely not worth $995 for me. But I can see that if you're a business owner in those categories, how that could really help out a lot. So to answer the question, Dalton, I don't think I would use the Founders card in place of the Platinum card, at least not yet. Maybe the Hilton Gold status is helpful, but because you need Founders card Elite for that, and that costs $995, that's like an even worse bargain than the Amex Platinum. Which brings me to my new kind of thought on the Amex Platinum. So when I was doing the research for this question, I thought to myself to figure out if the Platinum was still worth it to me at this point. Because I made a lot of videos about canceling the Platinum card. It's really not, doing as good with the lounge access. But I looked at it and I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? What credits do I actually use on this card? And does it actually work for me? And for the $695 annual fee and the free authorized user that I have in the card, which already is a benefit, the credits that I use are the digital entertainment credit, which, by the way, I don't specifically use that credit. It's actually my wife that uses the credit. So I don't watch Hulu and Disney Plus as much or at all, but she does a lot. And so that is part of what we get benefit from, which is helpful. I do use the airline credit for sure, because I use Southwest, and there's a lot of, flights that I buy that has that $5.60 or $11.20, taxes and fees. That counts for the airline credit. And also you can, do other things with Southwest, like buy upgraded boarding if you want. There's also, buying flights for less than $100. You can do that. So I use that, and it's totally fine. Uber credit, I do use Uber once a month, either Uber Eats or Uber, the rideshare service. So that's always going to be working for me. And then Clear also, I use that too, because before I had a sort of a negative view on Clear, because I think in late 2023 and early 2024, I was getting random ID screened with Clear a lot. So I think in a period of 10 times I used Clear, 9 of those times I was randomized for an ID check. And for those of you who don't know, if you do the ID check with Clear, you might as well have just gone to TSA PreCheck without using Clear, because Clear just makes it longer, because then you got to do the eye thing where you put look at your eye, they have to scan your boarding pass. It's actually slower. But then towards the end of 2024, I noticed that at my airport and other airports too, Clear actually is helpful because the pre-check line was getting so much more longer than it used to be. That now I always use Clear, and not only that, but also I've stopped getting a lot of random ID checks. So now it's maybe like once every 10 times I go, it's a random ID check, which is a little bit better. So now I am using Clear all the time, and so I use Clear maybe 2 or 3 times a month, and so for me that's worth it. And so with all of that stuff, we have a lot of credits that actually make that annual fee much more worth it for me. So for me, I may actually keep this Amex Platinum. I don't know. My annual fee's coming up in May. I have to make a decision by then. After all this talk about canceling it, I may just keep it for another year just based off what I just saw and explained to you guys. But we'll see. We'll see how to keep or cancel it. Um, there's that. So Monroe Doctrine says, Clear saved me at Salt Lake City this week. Almost missed my flight. That's awesome. So that's really good to hear. And then let's see here. Good. So there's that kind of question about the founder's card. So to answer your question, Dalton, no, I would not probably use a founder's card to replace Platinum, at least at this point. So Josh has a question too. He says, with your most recent What's in My Wallet, do you plan on making US Bank your primary bank for things like direct deposit, cash, etc.? I'm currently trying to find a new home bank and haven't decided on who to bank with. And so I don't plan on making US Bank my primary bank. For me, I've been with Bank of America for so long that is my primary bank. And so to move everything to US Bank would just not be like something I want to do. But I have some thoughts about this. What he's talking about is this video I made on Monday of What's in My Wallet. In that video, I essentially said, this is my new setup. It only consists of 2 US Bank cards and 2 Bank of America cards. And so I have cards from other issuers, but they're not really mainly used for spending. They're mainly used for benefits. And that's the reason why this question came up. And so when it comes to the banks, though, for me, I prefer having a brick and mortar bank to be my main bank. And I know a lot of people who are younger and are more, they use online banks more often and feel more comfortable. That's totally fine. That is the way that the industry is going. But for me, I like having a brick and mortar bank as a main bank because if there's a problem or some issue, I can go to the brick and mortar location next to my house and deal with the issue right away. I don't have to call customer service, wait on hold for a long time. I don't have to use a fintech where they have like a partner bank where I don't know where the bank is or I don't know what's going on. So there's a lot of like things in there that I just don't feel comfortable with. And if you have some money in those fintechs, that's fine. But I just wouldn't put the money I use to like eat like in a fintech bank because I need to depend on that money to like actually use for real things. That's my opinion. I know that others may disagree with me, but that's my thing because I want to make sure I can have access to my money when I want to have access to it. Having said that, there have been plenty of instances where US Bank, Bank of America, Chase, Capital One, they all have had problems with access to their people's money and they all had issues of their own. So not every bank is like perfect, right? But I think it eliminates a problem that you may have if you have a brick and mortar bank that you can actually have an option to go into the bank to figure out what's going on. So having an option to me, worth it. I do say though that online banks are okay for high yield savings accounts. Most brick and mortar banks do suck with their APYs. And so you definitely want to make sure your spare cash is in a high yield savings account. So do that for sure. So what I recommend for you is to just find a bank or credit union in your local area that's convenient for you. Whether it be, US Bank or Bank of America, depending on where you live, it's going to depend on what's around you, but that's what I'd recommend for that. And that is the end of the slideshow. So thank you for doing that. I'm going to go ahead and put this back up here. And so does anyone have any last minute questions? It's about 10 minutes left until noon. So I think that is part of the last part of this live stream. I just want to see if any more questions here. So QC Man asks, TSA pre-check global entry, I totally keep even without getting it free with credit cards. Would you keep clear even without credit card Stan? I personally would. It has saved my butt a bunch of times. And the TSA pre-check line is getting longer and longer. And even at my own regional airport. And so the answer used to be no, but now the answer is going towards yes, just because it has really helped me out in times where I was like, wow, that TSA pre-check line is really long. I'm going to use Clear. And then Clear is just gets you right to the front of the line. And it's very, very seamless and good. So that's the answer for me would be yes. Dalton says more people should definitely look into joining a credit union. They give very generous limits on credit cards and loans, and most of them participate in this co-op system. And I agree. If you have a credit union in your area that you think would work well with, that's definitely something to consider because they do have all those things Dalton mentioned, like you know higher generous limits on credit cards and better terms on loans. Dennis the Menace says, "Yep, TSA pre-check was longer for me recently than the standard line." Chad Pennickup says TSA global entry for the win. So I think we're all on board with TSA global entry. I think it's a matter of do you need clear or not? What's nice about clear actually is that it is covered by the credit card, the platinum card. But unfortunately, if I have my spouse on there too, it does go a little bit over. So I do pay like $60 or so for her like add-on membership for the family membership, which just kind of sucks. But I would still pay for that just because when we travel together, it's nice for us to go together and clear and not have to leave her behind in the other line, which is kind of not the goal here. Okay. Chad says though that clear can be helpful, but when you pay for it, no. And then the question I have for you, Chad, is: do you have clear for you and your spouse as well, or any of your children? How does that work out? Because I know that there's a family membership, and that's going to go over that $199 limit that the platinum has. I guess you could do something like having multiple platinums or having a platinum and a green card and putting two separate memberships on it. That could work, I would think. But I'm just curious for those of you with bigger families, how does that work? Oh, I see. I drop player 2 and above. Okay, there it is. So it's just only for you, which is totally fine too, as well. Okay. Okay, so any last minute questions here? Dalton says clear has helped me skip the line at concerts and at sporting events. Yes, I actually have never gone to through clear at a non-airport location, but it is true. There are some clear places that do offer this at like stadiums and things like that, which is really, really nice. Las Vegas Raiders have a clear entrance at the stadium, so I can skip the lines there too. Not sure if it's open during other events though. That's good to know. I actually, one of my goals is to eventually go to a Raiders game. I want to be in that Alliance Stadium. I've passed by it so many times in Las Vegas, but I just never been. So one of those days I want to do that. And I will use clear when I do. ILV bunnies. Bunnies are very cute, so I can see why you love them. The only reason I have clear is because of the Amex Platinum, but no, I would not pay for it otherwise. Chad says he flies solo 90% of the time. That's fair. You got to work with what you got. That's for sure. Are there any no annual fee cards that have TSA pre-check or global entry fee first? Yes, there are. The Fidelity Rewards Visa apparently is the one that offers that too. That's the one that I can think of. Yeah, so that's the one that I would say. So check out the Fidelity Rewards Visa. That's a pretty great benefit to have for a no annual fee card. QC Banks is clear doesn't also go to AU as well. I do not believe it goes to AU. You have to actually sign. It's a separate product from Platinum. So you have, even though you have a Platinum authorized user, it's not like Party Pass where they have their own Party Pass. You have to actually, it's a separate website you go to sign up for Clear, and then you build the Clear through the Platinum, which then gets reimbursed. But then the Clear platform has a family membership where you can add on to your membership. And at this point, because you don't have multiple Platinums or another green card to get the other Clear benefit, I have to put my spouse onto the membership. And that costs me like $70 a year or so, which is not terrible, but it's not zero. So working on the way to figure out how to make that better. Bryce says currently have CSP, which I would assume to be Chase Sapphire Preferred. Chase Freedom Unlimited, built MasterCard, and Merit on my bound list. Do you think the Venture X and Saver would be worth adding to my setup? I mean, if you want to try the Capital One Duo, I think that would be fine. I would just say, choose a core credit card setup and stick with it. But if you want to get them and try it out, there's nothing wrong with trying it for the first year, especially with welcome offers. Just get the cards, try it out, see you like it, and then kind of go from there. You can always downgrade that Venture X to like a Venture One or something. And so there's nothing but, seeing what works well for you. Joker asks, opinion on money market funds inside of brokerage accounts as alternative to high yield savings accounts. I've never done that. I've heard that, there's things like government funds and like other types of funds that are tax advantaged within your state. That could be helpful. I've actually never tried that, but I know that you can do something like that with like the Schwab brokerage, the Fidelity cash management and the brokerage accounts. You can do that too. I've never tried it, but it's certainly an alternative if you want to keep track of the percentage yields back as opposed to what's in the high yield savings account. Regardless of the rest says, hey Stan, one thing about lounge access, let's say for Amex, if you only fly 1 to 2 times per year, would you be better off just paying for the access instead of getting the platinum? Less credit fatigue. Well, you could, but the problem with that is that those are very expensive. And if you fly 1 or 2 times per year, it's probably not going to be worth it for you. It's probably better to just, if you need to pay for like the single access, that's fine. If you pay for like a global like priority pass, I don't know if they even offer like single entry passes for priority pass, but I know for like things like United Clubs, you can pay for access that day you go in, and that would be fine. I would pay for access, but it depends on if you would want to do that or not. Because you could also pay for like a meal at the airport too. So like it depends on what you're looking for. Lamp says, I am keeping and using the Amex Platinum mainly for international travel, best emergency medical evaluation. That alone is worth the annual membership. That's fair. Yeah, I think a lot of people use those cards for international trips, and the trip cancellation and protections are all very good on that. And if you ever have a medical problem, definitely good to have that card on that. And I also use my platinum card right now for all of my flight purchases, and so that would always cover all of those things, especially if I book like a round trip flight. All right. He says no cap on emergency medical evacuation, which is great. That's good to hear. So definitely let me thanks for letting me know about that. So now I can be more comfortable using my platinum card for using it for flights. Okay. Dalton says, I signed up for a Clear Plus membership trial, canceled after the trial, but they still show me as a Clear Plus member. That's great. I would just milk that for as long as that's worth. That's awesome, man. Keep it up. Another perspective, the US Bank Altitude Connect has a free TSA global entry as well. All right, awesome. That's great to hear. I did not remember that, but that's another great card to consider if it has no annual fee. Chad says, I use no fee high yield savings account for budgeting. House payment gains 3.8% while waiting to make the monthly payment. ACH payment pulls from the just fine from the high yield savings account. Okay. That's the way to do it. The only thing I would say with that is that most high yield savings accounts does have like a 6 transaction limit. Now, after the 2020 situation, a lot of banks have done away with that, but some still have that 6 transaction monthly limit. So if you're doing a lot of pulling from the savings account, I don't know if there's an issue with that or not, but that's all I would worry about in that situation. I Love Bunny says, if you fly United, the United Club could be worth it. You can actually use 30K United miles to cover the annual fee, and you have access to other Star Alliance lounges. Great tip. Thanks for dropping that in. Source Kings asks, how many hard pulls in a 6-month period are too many? I don't know. There's no right or wrong answer here. I would say if I saw my account, and I generally try to keep between 2 and 3 in a 6-month period, and that's like for me very high, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is if you can get the credit card you want to get for the credit score that you have. And so if that's the case, that would be my answer. I would say I would not apply for more than 1 card a month. That gets a little bit overwhelming. But again, no right answer because every bank is going to be different when they go for those things. Joker asks, do you anticipate banks like Chase, Wells Fargo following Bank of America and US Bank by offering higher cash back with more deposits and linked accounts? Chase Private Client and Sapphire Checking, perhaps. Maybe. I don't know if they'll follow that strategy just because they're kind of doing different things. I think US Bank is trying to emulate Bank of America, and they're doing so, okay so far. We'll see how it goes. But Chase is a very robust UR point system. They have a robust welcome offer system. They have a lot of great other opportunities for people to join Chase. And so I don't expect them to have that issue or do that at this point. Okay. And then Chad says you can have multiple high yield savings accounts, which is true. So there's that. And then I Love Buddy says the best high yield savings account is now probably the new open bank product by Santander. It has G-SIB status 2, which is too big to fail. Good to know about that. So we'll have to check that out. It's pretty good APY, so that's nice. And Filmo says he has 15 hard pulls, but it was 17, something better. So good job, Filmo. All those welcome offers get a lot of hard pulls, so I totally get that. And I'm glad you're getting better. So keep up the great work. I used my Amex Platinum to buy United Airlines travel bank credit, but it was not reimbursed. What other airlines are good for the Platinum Airlines credit? Well, there's a lot of things. I think one thing I would just look at is look at the selected airline you have on the Platinum credit, because that may or may not have been an issue of why it didn't apply. But for United, I mean, you can use it for what it's intended to, which is basically the incidental versions. But there's a lot of other ways to do it if you choose a different airline and try to get it from there. Okay. And then Live Every Channel says, how's the US Bank Broker platform? It's bad. We had a whole section on that earlier in this live stream, so definitely check that out. We can take a look there to figure out what it's like. Basically, it's not good, but it's only really a buy and hold situation. Ibas Aliu says I selected again. Okay, well then, I'm not sure why it didn't credit, because it does credit for a lot of people. So not sure why it didn't work for you. But again, I'm not sure what else you could do with United for that airline credit on the Platinum card. Tim McDonald asks, are you interested in the new Alaska Premium card? I am. I want to see what that companion pass looks like in terms of the international companion pass on different places. That's what I would look at, and that's going to determine if I get that card or not, essentially. I don't really fly Alaska Airlines, but I know their miles are pretty good and they can transfer to One World Partners. So things to think about, but we'll see what happens with that card. Afternoon, Stan, have you ever, or do you think you'll convert cashback into brokerage retirement accounts, i.e. all the 4% cashback from Smartly? I mean, I could. I think what I would use is just cashback into my regular checking. I don't think I actually convert that cash into the brokerage, just because I would rather just use that as cashback. Monroe Doctrine says I use the Amex High Yield Savings account, not the highest APY, but I like the convenience of not having so many apps to monitor. And there's definitely something to say about simplicity for that. So that's definitely true. The Delta gift card plus Platinum charge just over $200 trick still works. I use it twice this month. That's great to know. Good. So that's, if you're Delta, that's another way to get good value on that $200 airline credit on the Platinum. Okay. And then we have a few more about the brokerage here. Brokerage ditches high yield savings account, as well as another perspective who said it's very basic. Dalton also signed up for the Alaska card. I did too, actually. So I got my points in the wait list, the 500 point situation. So I got that too, or the 500 miles, I guess. So we'll have to wait and see what that Alaska card shows. And I think we're all excited to see that. Okay. So I think we're going to go ahead and end it there. Thank you so much for going into this live stream and listening to our experiences and figuring out if the US Bank Smartly 4% card is for you. Again, I do these live streams once a month, and I always appreciate all the questions you ask, both in the live stream and also on the community post. Again, it's a great time to interface with the community. We all have a lot of different opinions and experiences to share, and that makes all of us together collectively very strong, so we can really get the best value we can get out of credit cards as well. And so thanks again so much for being here again. I hope you all have a great rest of your Saturday. Thank you so much for the super chats from Filmo, John, and Chad. Again, if you don't mind, go ahead and hit that like button on your way out if you're getting value, because that would really help me out and get this video to more people. But with that being said, I wish you all a happy Saturday, happy weekend, and take care. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, guys.